What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best lightning arrow ranger build in part of Exile 2. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of the setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it for both the mid game and end game. And then finally we will go over the passive tree, attributes, your skill rotations, and even what Atlas passive should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. If you are looking for this build on the website, then click my link in this video's description or the pinned comment. This setup is known as the Lightning Arrow build, which is currently one of the best and fastest setups that you can use to farm maps and other endgame content. Like you can see from the gameplay, we are basically deleting enemies in split seconds. And on top of this, we can also delete bosses, by us having also a very high boss damage by using the cast on shock and the ball lightning. At some point in the later game, some lowered gear players might run into a mana problem, but lucky for us, the ranger has many tools to address this problem, and with the optimized gear we need nothing more than a single stat roll on our weapon or the gear to completely solve this issue. So if you like using only 2 skills and completely speedrunning through the hundreds of enemies in few seconds, then let's get right into it. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the ranger, and our ascendancy is the dead eye. Then for the first skill we have the lightning arrow, and for our support gems we want to go with the martial tempo, ice bite, cold infusion and primal armament. Then second we got the lightning rod with the scatter shot, concentrated effect, conduction and the rising tempest. Next we got the herald of the thunder with the lightning infusion and the lightning penetration. Next we have the Herald of the Ice with Cold Penetration, Magnified Effect and the Elemental Focus. Next we are also using the Wind Dancer with the Blind. Next we have the Orb of Storm with the Chain, Unleash, Overabundance and the Persistence. Then we got the Cast on Shock with the Ball Lightning, Deceleration, Inspiration and the Impetus. And finally for the last one we got the Voltaic Mark with Persistence, Innervate and the Lightning Mastery. Most of this build is structured around using the lightning arrow and the lightning rod to instantly shot his DPS lightning projectiles, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their area and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guides. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this projectile damage node and go like this until we get the honed instincts and the vile wounds. Then next we want to keep on moving to get this entire thing, and mainly we want to aim for the master fletching and disharness the elements. Then from here we want to get back at this point and then keep going down like this, and then when the path splits, then now we want to go to the left bottom. So let's make our way like this, and then finally we want to get both these lightning nodes, so the lightning rod and the flash storm. Then from here we want to circle back and go to the top right side and get the mental toughness and the other mana regen nodes that will help us with the potentially low mana. And then finally from this point and onwards you can unlock all the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of the nodes that we got are important, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority as they're the most important to acquire early on in the game to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for our Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Gathering Winds, then second get the projectile proximity specialization with the point blank option. Then next get the endless munition, and then finally we want to select the wind ward. And also preferably we want to get 1 mana on kill jewel, or at least get the mana on kill on the quiver. In PoE 2 earning skill points take a lot of hard work, so it will be wise not to spend your points recklessly. Of course you can refine your passive points later, but only at a cost, so following a specific setup is extremely useful. If you are following this build, then make sure not to deviate from it, as some of the decisions that I made might not make sense at first, but it's going to pay off later. So feel free to use the exact same path as I have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the tree. And next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or the rituals. Also our lightning ranger has a very strong single target damage, so farming boss maps or essences is also a good option. So when we start we want to first of all get to the bottom left side like this, then now we want to go to the top right side and get all of these passives. And then finally from here you wanna go to the top middle part and get the rest of the passives in no particular order. Then next we have our gear, and for this build you only need about 100 spirit. The weapon of our choice is the expert dual string bow. This is the most important item that we have, so look for the highest cold or physical damage bow that you can get your hands on. Also, lightning damage is a good option as well, but for sure you want to avoid fire damage. Generally, I would value additional arrows over a 50 DPS increase, so keep that in mind. And then for bonus stats, we want the bow attacks to fire an additional arrow, then physical damage increase, more lightning damage, or plus extra levels to all projectile skills. Next we also have the offhand called the primed quiver, and good stats to look for are the cold or physical damage, increased damage with the bow skills, attack speed, dexterity, projectile speed, level of all projectile skills, and mana on kill. And generally, this is the place where we want at least one source of mana on kill, to reduce our low mana against bosses. Then for the helmet we have the advanced scaled helm with armor and evasion. And for bonus stats we want more armor, more evasion, max life and cold resistance. And it's very important to reach 75% resistance in all 4 stats, so try to get as much of that as possible on your gear. Then for the chest we have the expert studded vest with a lot of evasion. Yes, I chose to sacrifice life for more evasion, and this will give us a lot more utility, especially in the endgame. And then for the extra stats we want max life, more evasion and fire resistance. Then for the belt we have the utility belt that recovers our flask 20% quicker. And then for bonus stats we want more max life, and any other resistances like lightning or chaos. Then for gloves we got the advanced doubled gauntlets with armor and evasion. And for extras we want max life, chaos and fire resistance. Then for boots we are using the advanced embossed boots with evasion. And for more we 100% want to get as high movement speed as possible and also cold resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Thief's Torment. And here I want to give you a huge disclaimer. So if at the start of this build you're struggling with mana, then this one ring can completely solve it because of the 15 mana gain per each hit, so we will basically never run out of it. But as it is a quite expensive ring, so you can go for other rings as well. This Thief's Torment is only needed for bosses, so usually use different rings for mapping. It's the only source of mana on hit in the game, so without the ring you will instantly run out of mana on the boss. You don't really need it in the lower tier Waystones, but once you get to the top tier, then you will most likely need it. So try to get it before most other players find out about it. And then on the second one we got the Sapphire Ring with cold resistance. And for more bonuses we want max life and chaos resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Stellar Amulet, which gives us more to all attributes. And for extras we want to get more to spirit. Overall for this build I recommend to get 95 intelligence for the ball lightning and the cast on shock. Plus I have a level 11 gem for the ball lightning and also a level 11 for a cast on shock. Of course these gems can be a higher level, but then it will require more intelligence, so getting them to level 11 I found it to work the best. Then next we have runes. During early item progression, most gear is socketed with resistance runes like the Desert Rune, Glacial Rune or the Storm Rune. And once elemental resistances have been capped and elemental resistant runes are no longer necessary, then you want to opt in to increase their maximum life with body runes or consider socketing a soul core. So for our weapon we're using the Iron Rune. Then on our helmet we have the Glacial Rune, and then for the rest of our equipment we are going with the Storm Runes. As the game just launched, so this is a starter setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And as far as getting this gear goes, by far the best way to get better gear in the campaign is to check the vendor in the town, each time you level up. As vendors change their offerings based on your level, this is the best way to find upgrades. And if you're desperately in the need of a weapon upgrade, then you can check the previous act vendors as well. And then for after level 65, then you want to keep on repeating your maps until tier 16. And again, for more in-depth guides on how to get your gear, then check out my gearing guide video. Then on top of this, we need quickly look into the charms. Charms are incredibly useful, as by having the right one equipped at the right time can save you from dying. If you are struggling with certain bosses, then look into what damage type they are using, and then use that specific charm to increase your resistance. For me personally, I like to use the Stone Charm for stuns, then the Amethyst Charm for chaos damage, and then finally the Ruby Charm for fire damage. But as I said, which one you choose will entirely depend on the enemies that you are fighting, so feel free to experiment and mix and match. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And as you can see from the gameplay, this is one of the most powerful but easiest and simplest builds in the game. So our main rotation is just to use the lightning arrow and the lightning rod, for easy to kill monsters, which are most of our targets. But then specifically for bosses, you can then place down the Orb of Storms, and spam the lightning rod and cast the volatile mark. This will give you a great buff against the boss and insane amount of shock lightning damage for the single target. On top of this, if you're a new player, then some mechanics may seem a bit weird, so let me quickly explain. If your lightning rod or the cast on shock is not working, then either way try to self-cast the volatile mark, and then place down the Orb of Storms, or perhaps after your volatile mark is out and the Orb of Storms, then only then start spamming the lightning rod. Also, if you're low level and you can't use the cast on shock, then you need to put a skill gem in that skill, or the game itself won't allow you to get the effect. And then finally, if you're low geared and run into a mana problem, especially against bosses, then try to get one Jewel with the mana on kill, or mana on kill from our quiver. For most players, there's no real way to solve mana for bosses, until you get the Thief's Torment Ring, but using simple strategies may help as well. This might sound obvious, especially at the beginning, when you might not have yet unlocked the mana on kill, but if you run out of mana, then you just simply wanna cast less skills and wait. You'll be doing very high damage anyways, so casting few less skills won't really impact the gameplay that much, but it may reduce your mana consumption, especially if you're undergeared or underleveled. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my top 3 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds, so click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.